Mi nombre es Erika Arteaga Cruz y soy la co-coordinadora del Círculo de Ambiente y Salud del Movimiento para la Salud de los Pueblos. Quiero decirles buenos días en español, demostrando la diversidad que esperamos se refleje en la cumbre, pero además, buenos días para Latinoamérica y para las regiones que se suman a esta hora. Para aquellos y aquellas que se juntan hoy, nuestra más cálida y sentida bienvenida. Vamos a poner sobre la mesa nuestras intenciones para este espacio primero y abordar la parte tecnológica luego. Nosotros durante la primera sesión habíamos encendido una vela para
light a candle.
Ahorita estoy encendiendo un palo santo.
And right now I'm lighting a palo santo, what we do here. Our intentions, for those who have been here in previous reunions, welcome back and thank you for being here. Our intentions today are to, well, welcome here to this People's Health hearing. We want to hear about the injustices that you've been living, but also about the resistances in our territories. We want to hear about the fight for the climate change. This event has been a long time in the making. And it's been incredible to join people from all over the world and from very different backgrounds like health, climate, racial issues, migrants, and all kinds of social injustice. Because now we can join all the fights and all the struggles across the world. And we hope that this hearing will serve as a further head start to help build this movement globally. After listening to several testimonies, we will hear after 4:15 p.m. United Kingdom time, we will have the closing of the session where some of the listeners and movement leaders for justice, climate justice, who have been listening throughout the day will meet all together their experiences and reflections and contribution. So we can all have so we can all share our points of views. Participating in a space like this can be overwhelming and also can be tiring. But we have to take care of ourselves and take breaks and step in as we need. Kavian will speak in English.
Thanks so much, Erica. Elorukum vanakkam. Ennuடைய பேர் காவியன் குலசபாநாதன். Yeah, my name is Kavian Kulasabanadan. I wanted to introduce myself in my first language, in Tamil. Thanks so much to Erica for setting the space and the intentions, and just wanted to, acknowledge the real vulnerability of the space that's being held today, and kind of the vulnerability that everybody that's joined us and provided testimony has shown. It's really made for a pretty amazing and incredible morning, and I hope that kind of we can carry that care on throughout the rest of the day. I wanted to just highlight a couple of things before we moved forward. So it's not just the actual contributions that we've heard through the hearing, the kind of today that we have. We actually have an online gallery which is beautifully rich, with lots of different submissions, testimonies, contributions from various people around the world who couldn't unfortunately kind of temporarily make it with us, but they're up there, and Ben's really kindly popped the link into the chat, so definitely check that out, and we'll be continuously updating that, including with content from today as well. So it'll be a real kind of landing page and hub for the things that we're doing and trying to do. And the other thing that I think would be really beautiful to do is we've been trying to get a sense of everyone that's joined us and kind of the geographical location that they've joined us from. So we've got a page on Mentimeter. So it's the same link that we've been following throughout the day. I think somebody's kindly going to pop that back in the chat, or you can just go on menti.com and use the code at the top. And we can see, yeah, already there's been lots of people kind of tuning into where they've actually joined from, yeah, which is amazing, and hopefully kind of testament to the fact that this is a global north conversation. This is us standing in solidarity as brothers and sisters from all over the world. The next thing we wanted to do is introduce two more of our listeners who will be gathering together some of the kind of really incredible diverse threads that come up through the discussions and contributions that we have, and offering their reflections at the end of this session. The first is the inimitable Canna House Manuel. So Canna House is a mother and activist, a traditional birth keeper, land and water defender, and freedom fighter. Canna House was born into a political family known for bringing their fight for their traditional territories into the international spotlight, and is a member of the second PEC. And I'm really sorry, Canna House, you're going to have to repeat that because I'm sure I've really mispronounced that, so sorry. Women Warrior Society. Canna House's activism also includes prison justice work, including advocacy for freedom and exoneration of Orlando Watley. Alongside Canna House, we're really overjoyed to have Tatiana Garavito with us. Tatiana is an organizer and facilitator with over a decade's experience of working on issues around race, migration, and climate justice. And she leads on the care and repair work at Tipping Point UK, and is one of the co-founders for the training collective Organising for Change. And I think just spotlighted Tatiana here, so she can say hi. Bro, and just the last couple of things, sorry, but just important to set the space up properly and safely. Tech, in case you guys aren't familiar already, we'd like to keep yourselves gently to remind yourselves to keep yourselves on mute if you're not, if you're not speaking. You can change your name and add your pronouns at the bottom. And we'll be switching lots between Spanish and English, as you've probably realized already. So be sure to tune into the right channel for the language that you want to listen in on. And please use the chat to kind of interact and introduce yourself when it's open. And we just want to emphasize that, we don't accept any verbal or physical violence within the space. It goes without saying. We avoid using any oppressive language at all. We're here to create a really beautiful, nurturing, flourishing community, and really reflect on actively challenging our privileges. And so we want to really create or co-create a safe and accessible space where we actively listen to each other and learn from each other through really deep and true reflection, genuine reflection. So thanks very much for listening to all of that. And I'm going to hand it back over to Erica to introduce the first testimony for this session.
Voy a hablar en español.
I will be speaking in Spanish, and I will remind you all that we will have, I remind my Spanish speakers colleagues to speak slowly. The first testimony is from the collective Yasunidxs Guapondelig from Cuenca, Ecuador. They work defending human rights, nature rights, and they propose other ways of living in harmony with nature. They also fight for cultural diversity. They fight against predator extractivisms and other dangers that may threaten the páramo ecosystem and water sources. So welcome, Nidia Solis and Paola Granizo. Hello. Good morning, everyone who's here in this important space, and thank you for inviting us to be here. To start with this speech, I will give the word to Paola, who will talk first.
Estás mutada.
Buenos días, buenas
Hello, good morning, good afternoon,
tardes.
everyone.
Yo somos de la ciudad de Cuenca, la
We are
tercera
from Cuenca City.
Andes Sur. Esta ciudad está
This
amenazada
city has been threatened
desde hace más de 3
Se
décadas.
está cortando el audio, entonces creo que es mejor sin video y si puedes dejarle solo el audio.
Perfecto. Bueno, esta ciudad está amenazada
The
desde hace
city
más de
has
3
been
décadas
threatened.
nacional. ¿No se oye bien?
Can't you hear me right?
Let me do something, please. Datos celulares. A ver. Is it better now? Do you hear me well?
¿Habla? ¿Habla? Sí. Dale.
Is it better?
Sí, habla.
Okay. Bueno, I'm going to start again. Bueno, Ida y yo somos de Cuenca,
We are from Cuenca,
la tercera ciudad del Ecuador, ubicada en los Andes de este país.
the third biggest city of Ecuador.
Cuenca es la capital de la provincia de
Cuenca
Azuay.
is the capital of
Es la que ocupa el primer lugar en cuanto a la superficie de páramos, que es un ecosistema súper importante y vulnerable, considerado como tal, incluso en la Constitución de la República
Here
de
you can
Ecuador.
find the páramo, who is one of the most important ecosystems in Ecuador.
Asimismo, esta provincia
And here you can also find
sistemas. Los páramos, conocidos en inglés como moor, son
The-
ecosistemas frágiles, pero a la vez estratégicos, ya que son fundamentales para la generación de agua, para la conservación de la biodiversidad.
these
Pues,
moors are very important for water conservation.
mismo, y también son claves para la captura de carbono. Cuenca también ha sido reconocida,
Cuenca has also been recognized as
es también la capital mundial de la
of the
artesanía. Y en
world
este
capital of
tenemos un área protegida, el Parque Nacional Cajas. Este
of
lugar
clothwork, and we also have a national park
es Alto Andinos. ¿Hay algún problema?
that is
Lo importante de este parque nacional es que
the
cuenta con
importance of this national park is that
lacustres. Es área de importancia internacional para la conservación.
a very important area
Ha sido declarado
and
como
has been
sitio
declared as
de importancia Ramsar. Y es parte del Centro de
it's a part
Conservación.
of the Center of Conservation.
Posee 71 especies
It
endémicas.
has 71
De especies son exclusivas de este parque nacional.
endemic species that are exclusive
El
from
problema con la
that national park, but the problem is
megavida, como todos los páramos de Cuenca,
as all the
para la minería metálica a mediana y gran escala.
moors, it's been
Les contaba que
exploded by
dos proyectos cuyo carácter es estratégico.
mining, and there's two strategic projects.
Municipal y provincial.
Te sigue cortando cada cierto tiempo y entonces no sé si les parece que puedan ir y a tomar la presentación porque de todas formas tenemos 15 minutos, disculpa. por las imperfecciones de la parte tecnológica. Sí, porque no se puede traducir bien, se está cortando cada...
We cannot do a correct translation since the audio has so many issues.
Ahí sí, ¿está bien?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Ya, continuando con lo que cuenta Pau, nuestra ciudad, nuestro cantón cuenta con un área protegida que es el Parque Nacional El Cajas.
Our place comes with a protected forest. It's an emblematic forest in our country, and it gives water to all these communities in here in our country.
Además provee también
And also it
riqueza en
it gives, and it's rich in biodiversity.
a partir de la construcción de 2008,
In 2008, when two mega projects were built that are in the páramos in Cuenca, that are called Quimsacocha and in River Blanco, even though the right says that we deserve to live a good life and to be protected, this has not been a main objective of the governments that have ruled us in the last couple of years.
Y tenemos entonces estos dos proyectos
We
que
have
han
these
sido
two projects that
generado conflicto,
have caused more conflict in these two regions that I was talking about. They're in the Cuenca of the Pacific,
en las partes altas de dos cuencas hidrográficas que recorren
into
nuestro cantón. Las hectáreas que están afectadas serían
the areas that are
7.000
affected.
y su
It's
proyección es de una vida
1,600,
útil de esa mina es de 12 años, con visos a
and
extender.
the life of that is said to be just 12 years if the port, and the project can even go longer. The mining in there is to obtain coal, copper, and it's going to be bringing quite a lot of minerals in the next couple years. It's expected to that 13 million of meter cubic will be used. Then you can understand the dimension of how this is affecting in this zone that is so sensitive. It, we can see that there's gonna be cyanide and other kind of poisons, and that more than 45,000 of liters per day of water are gonna be consumed. The installation of all these projects have caused several problems to the health and social problems too, especially in the agricultural communities, giving it room for social protests. In the alliances of the human rights, it shows that they're fighting for the rights of the water and of the nature. There have been some cases about some social leaders have been killed too. Some impacts it's having to the communities is not just the conflict, but also conflict with the corporations, but also in the internal conflicts between the communities.
Sus proyectos mineros. Entre los impactos a los ecosistemas
To the impact of the ecosystem, we can register 65 perforations, generating ground competition, affect, also affecting other species, mammals, birds, and all animals are and all the ecosystem. And also the subsoil is known to have high quantities of arsenic. We're expecting that all the water reserves are going to get contaminated too. The impacts of the mining have been quite high. It can cause incapacities, health problems, even death. However, nothing of this has been considered enough to prevent this invasion by mining corporations, international mining corporations from Australia. Now are also there's also corporations from China in all our national territory. Also, the communities are being modified, the traditions too, because they are affecting social cultural environment too. It's another kind of pollution too. Everything that constitutes pollution to water, air, soil. This has to be enough motive for the states to worry and protect the life of the nature and of the people living there. Especially because we have a constitution in our country that recognizes the rights of the nature. So this potential pollution of our water and ecosystems, it's also affecting the neighboring regions that do agriculture, another kind, catering. It's also affecting reproduction health of women, having teratogenic effects in the future generations. It's creating waste, toxic waste. Also, this will cause displacement of people and other pathologies, mental, physical, and social. 670 millions are supposed to be the profit that these corporations are generating, but they go to this is in benefit of the state. We think that talking economically is not viable as an economy. We have rejected and we have resisted against mining corporations. However, since 2007, we can say there is a greater consistency and a stronger strategy to combat all these corporations. We have five strategies that are coming in several places. There's also a lot of organizations, communities that, that are joining. And this, but however, this has caused so very little actions and consequences. But however, right now we have managed to stop the corporations in Rio Blanco thanks to thanks to the to a judge, and there was a consult the last year to represent the possibility to stop the mining. However, this direct democracy
se pronunciaron en contra.
In Cuenca have pronounced, 80% have pronounced they're against this kind of projects.
Y han continuado con los proyectos
They
mineros.
have continued, however, they have continued with the projects.
Entonces, en la actualidad nos planteamos nuevos desafíos de movilización.
Right now, we're thinking about new ways to fight and join the communities. And the only way to manage this and to stop this kind of projects is the resistance. The community's resistance to join forces so we can achieve to close and solve this threat. Thank you very much.
Si te cuento que el agua viene desde la cima y forma ríos que cruzan el valle por las colinas, que los guaguas beben de ella y se bautizan, y la abuela prepara el café como agua bendita. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca quiere el agua limpia para vivir. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca vota en la consulta, te quiero así. En estos ríos lavan la ropa lindas cholitas, en el agua que baja del Cajas hasta Cuenquita. ¿Y qué pasa si en nuestra agua la contaminan? Contaminan también mi tierra y mi familia. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca quiere el agua limpia para vivir. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca vota en la consulta, te quiero así.
Está en el monte, está en la horchata, está en el agua que beben las vacas, está en los campos, en el Tomebamba, está en la mesa de todas las casas, en el canalazo, está en la chicha, en el carnaval de toda la vida, está en los taitas y en las guambitas, está en mi pueblo que nunca se olvida. Por eso si el agua la contamina, no quedará espacio para la vida.
Chola, cuencana, mi chola. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca quiere el agua limpia para vivir. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca vota en la consulta, te quiero así. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca quiere el agua limpia para vivir. Cuenca sí, Cuenca sí, Cuenca vota en la consulta, te quiero así.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Miriam, muchas gracias, Paola. Vamos a pasar, disculpen por los inconvenientes técnicos, muchísimas gracias, compañeras. Vamos a pasar ahora al siguiente testimonio y damos la bienvenida a nuestro compañero Damián Berseñaz. Damián habla por el INSA, el Instituto de Salud Socioambiental de la Facultad de Ciencias Médicas de la Universidad Nacional de Rosario. Es un equipo de trabajo que se propone desde la universidad pública contribuir a generar saberes sobre los impactos en la salud que generan los extractivismos desde un diálogo permanente con las comunidades, entendiendo la salud desde una perspectiva integral como una sola salud, la salud de la madre tierra. Bienvenido, Damián, y les recordamos hablar despacio para que pueda tener las traductoras puedan ayudar.
Hola, buenos días. No sé si es
Hello,
mayor
everyone.
de lograr que los gobiernos se pongan de acuerdo en la COP26 o que yo hable despacio. Pero bueno,
I
voy a
don't really know what's more difficult. If here, thank you to all the to all the people that have organized this, and because here we can give voice to other people and territories that couldn't be here, because it's been 26 encounters to try to come to an agreement. I was thinking in the previous days that if they were doctors who participate here in this reunion, to have to make decisions to stop the advance of all the extractivisms and climate change, everyone would be in jail or would have some sort of penalty.
Activistas que se imponen en
In
los
this hegemonic science, this same science has reunited enough evidence about the impact that these ways of organization are affecting the world. And in the case of the health, in special, there's evidence that last year, for example, 25,000 kids in the world were born premature because their mothers were exposed to extreme temperatures. There's effects that you can see in women, in elderly people, but you can see them also in the way that we try to create modifications and changes to the system. There was an increase of 0.25 Celsius degrees would signify an impact in the newborns. And this here in the moment where the COP26 agreed to try to reduce the reduce the reforestation for 2030. It's we have 9 years left. That doesn't mean that we have to stop our movements and our fights.
Responsables de la liberación de gases de efecto invernadero en el planeta es la agroindustria. La agroindustria,
the agroindustry is one of the main responsibles for all this, for all the deforestation problem. This agroindustry was already in 2019 the responsible of the majority of the emissions, and according to this international organization, between the 44 and the 57% of the emissions are the responsibility of the agro-industry.
Y en el mismo periodo de tiempo la
On the same period of time, the reforestation passed from being responsible of 69,000
esa agroindustria que además ha arrasado en promedio desde el año 90
agroindustry has
más de 2 millones de hectáreas de bosques y montes nativos por año, nada más que
killed thousands of forests. This agroindustry, in the case of Argentina, alongside the transgenics, increased in 20 years the use of agrotoxics 1,000%. This agroindustry,
esa agroindustria que
this agroindustry has been shown to be the responsible of malformations in people, also pathologies, because they change, they alter all the ecosystems. it's also responsible of the 67% of the use of the water, with something that is known as virtual water, because this is an industry that where it exports communities. It doesn't only export cereals, for example, but it also exports water, because the that agro-industry is the one that we want to report. But it's not the agro-industry by itself, but the way that it's been sustained by the government and by all the laws and rules that the countries have used with this agro-industry, because they are characterized by deleting the possibility of reintegration of those who are part of territories that have been designated as the areas of sacrifice for this agro-industry. If I can share my screen, I would like to share with you an image that we've created alongside the colleagues that participated in a course, in a capacitation course that we made between different movements. And that thanks to a group of artists, we were able to create this map. This map who shows the relation between the territory and the body, and it shows all the effects that the extractivism has in ourselves. So that's why we proposed and we showed this necessity to fight and to defend the territories as a key to maintain our health. There's no chance that the human will have health if the territories aren't healthy by themselves.
Por volumen y por características físico-químicas no pueden ser metabolizados por nuestros territorios en los procesos naturales de metabolismo.
Here, and then we have to have conscious that there's some things that our bodies and the territories cannot process by themselves. So we have to restructure this context so we can have a healthy way of life. That's our work. That's what we came here to contribute. We have to know ourselves and we have to be part of the territories that we cohabit. So we have the future that we dream and that we need. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Damian. That was really, really powerful, particularly the image that you showed of the cuerpo territorio. Yeah, so yeah, we'd like to take some space just to appreciate that. The next testimony is from Dr. Goran Zangana. Goran is a medical doctor and a public health activist from the Kurdistan region of Iraq, and he's also a member of Clinicians for Planetary Health. So yeah, I'm really humbled to have Goran with us today, and I'm going to hand the floor over to him.
Thank you, Kavian. I hope you can hear me very well. Thank you for being flexible in allowing me the time to speak in this fabulous space, and I'm really privileged, and it's a great honor to be among such great speakers and activists. So as Kevin said, I'm a doctor, but in addition to my clinical work, I do public health activism, and I'm the founder and director of a network, of public health protection network of Kurdistan region of Iraq. So yeah, so sorry for that, apologies. So yeah, the story that I'm going to tell is a story about a little girl, a little Kurdish girl called Hanasa. Hanasa in Kurdish means breath. And although the characters and the events that happened in the story are all real, however, the way I am going to tell the story, it's greatly shaped by a story, a children's story that I like to read to my children, which is called Greta and the Giants. And I really recommend that children's story to anyone who is interested in the climate crisis. So Hanasa was born around the year 2000. And around that year, her parents and neighbors were surprised that an oil giant in the region, actually a Canadian oil company called Oryx Petroleum, decided to donate $45 million to build a children's hospital in the Kurdistan region of Iraq, in Erbil city, which is the capital of the region. And in a clear reference to the giant in Greta and the Giants, those giants, the oil company, signed an agreement with the prime minister of the region at the time, Nachirvan Barzani, and the minister of oil to build this hospital. And what people didn't know, Hanasa's family didn't know, was that the oil company, Oryx Petroleum, has also signed a very lucrative oil exploration contract with the Kurdistan regional government at the time. And it seemed that the $45 million that they donated was part of what they called their corporate social responsibility. So the giants, the prime minister, the oil company, the finance minister, the minister of planning, and also an NGO have all came together and built a foundation. And the foundation was called the Kurdistan Children Hospital Foundation. So a foundation for Hanasa and her peers and the rest of the children of Kurdistan. And to the surprise of people, they registered this foundation in the UK, in companies' houses and the charity commission in the UK. Around 2004, when Hanasa was 4 years old, the hospital was completed. It was an excellent building. It was a great organization. It actually, the design won the first prize in a very prestigious international competition for designing hospitals. And a very prestigious construction agency, a UK-based one called MAKE, designed the hospital. But around 2004, Hanasa got unwell. She had some upper respiratory tract symptoms. She was coughing, she was short of breath. And a lot of people said it is most likely because of all of the pollution from the oil exploration that was happening in the region, in Kurdistan region. And this is give you some historical context and some political context. This is around the time where the Iraq war happened, and an influx of companies started to pour into the region, the Kurdistan region, and explore oil. So Hanasa was unwell around 2004, 2005. And her family took her to this hospital, the hospital that came to be known as the Kurdistan Children Hospital. But when they arrived at the gates of the hospital, instead of flowers and instead of nice graffitis and things like that, there was a massive security presence. There were the hospital was guarded by the most fearsome military personnel, and the Hanasa's family were told that unfortunately they cannot see her in the hospital, and the hospital is now is not called the Kurdistan Children Hospital. It is called Santi Life Private Hospital, and it is run by a private company, and it's not for children anymore. And this is, going fast forward now in 2020, it's starting to receive COVID patients. And for every COVID patient that the hospital was treating, they were charging $1,500 US. So this was a hospital that was built on public land that was donated by the government from money that was part of what is called the corporate social responsibility of an oil company, and also money matched by the investment board of Kurdistan region of Iraq. And all of a sudden, it became from a public, not for profit hospital, it became a completely private hospital, charging $1,500 US per night, and during the pandemic for COVID patients. So of course, Hanasa, her family, the neighbors, the people in the area started to get angry and started to ask questions. And that's when the Public Health Protection Network was born, actually, out of this injustice. And the Public Health Protection Network started gathering evidence, and the evidence that I presented here, the fact that the oil company provided $45 US from its corporate social responsibility, the fact that the land for building the hospital was built on public land, the fact that the Board of Investment in Kurdistan Regional Government, which is also, again, a public entity, donated large amount of money to match the $45 million US that was donated by the oil company. All of these facts, and again, also the fact that a foundation was registered in the UK in the name of the Kurdistan Children's Hospital Foundation in the Charity Commission. The company's house was established to transfer all of the money that was gathered to build the hospital to the UK to avoid taxes that, we later learned that fact as well. All of these facts were gathered by the Public Health Protection Network. And the Public Health Protection Network on this case started a campaign, using social media, so Facebook, Twitter, other media outlets, to start campaigning to return the hospital to the children of Kurdistan. Certain things happened since. The company's house and the Charity Commission in the UK decided to deregister, if you will, the Kurdistan Children's Hospital Foundation from its list of charities. The Kurdistan regional government issued statements and established a committee to investigate the matter. And also members of parliament in the UK and members of the parliament in Kurdistan started to pay attention to the matter and come forward. However, unfortunately, still the hospital is a private hospital. Still, it is charging money. And even worse, the hospital started to be affiliated now with a private university, which is chaired by the son of now the president of Kurdistan region, a former prime minister. So our, this story, our interpretation of this story is, in fact, the oil company, in addition to its extraction of oil and polluting the environment and the climate in the region, actually bribed the prime minister and now the president of Kurdistan region to build this hospital. And then the prime minister and now the president took over the ownership of the hospital. And now the hospital is providing profits for the president. So unfortunately, Hanasa is still unwell. The significant and the accelerating privatization of the health system in Kurdistan means that she cannot access healthcare without her parents and her family needing to pay a lot of money, sometimes needing to sell property and sell things that they own to pay for medical bills. The hospital, as I said, is still being a private entity, but the struggle is going on. The fight is continuing, and I am hopeful that by just telling this story and organizing and establishing, a network like the Public Health Protection Network, and hopefully by legal measures and lawsuits in the UK and elsewhere against the company and against the Kurdistan regional government, the hospital will one day will be returned to Hanasa and the children of Kurdistan. Until then, the only thing we can learn from this is we are up against a significant network of corrupt politicians, business people, especially in the oil sector, who are willing to do anything, even denying little children's like Hanasa healthcare to both pollute our climate, but also profit from children like Hanasa. Thank you so much again for allowing me to share my story here, and I'm looking forward to hearing the rest of the stories.
Muchas gracias. Vamos a hablar en español ahora. Muchas gracias por este
We're
testimonio.
going to speak Spanish now. I'm very thankful for this. We're going to continue now with our colleagues from the Observatory of Political Science. They have a testimony from Venezuela, and his name is Rodríguez Mananto. This is an organization that is organized with several purposes that investigate and have activism in several fights and practices, the defense and the taking care of the life. What they search is to see the impacts, socio-ecological impacts of extractivism, also about the registry, systematization, and diffusion of different knowledge and experiences produced in different fights in their country. Also, they defend the nature and territories in common and the way of life they have. Good morning. Good afternoon too. We're happy here to share this space with you. I salute you from Caracas. I'm going to share my screen because I want to share some ideas about. Please, Emiliano, we're going to remind everyone that you can write the questions in where we told you to do it. Well, some ideas in a way to see in a broad way when talking about Venezuela, about the current situation. We're going to talk several things that are very important for us that represent the current situation. The first I would like to share is that we're a team. There is composed both by women and men, and we fight for climate justice. And we do this in both in an activism way and also by doing research. And we are fighting this really complex fight, and we know we are in a complex context. As you see, there's fights for life that are being producing in Venezuela, and this is happening in a really complex context. All the Venezuelan society has collapsed. and the political regime has been formed as a military and authoritarian government, which has provoked also international problems and conflicts. And it's also when we talk about health, it's also complex for all the communities in people and also for the ecosystems that are here in this country. In this context, we want to highlight the information, the, well, let's just call it the configuration of this extractivism that's become operational. It's a little bit chaotic. In this, the government has been promoting mining, petroleum, also displacement, and all this has been done by corruption and with military presence. We've arrived to a breaking point where this fight are not just fighting for the reivindication of these people and communities, it's also we're fighting also for our lives. Douglas, if you can go ahead.
Tienes el micrófono apagado.
You have your microphone off.
Tu micrófono sigue apagado.
Your microphone is still off.
Bueno, gracias por la invitación.
Thank you for the invitation. Want to hay problemas técnicos, no se puede. There's some technical problems we can't hear correctly. As soon as this is fixed, we'll continue with interpretation.
Perdón que te interrumpa, Douglas, pero estamos...
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but your signal, there's something wrong with your signal. Maybe you can turn off the video so we can hear you better.
Douglas. ¿Puedes hablar?
Hola, buenos días.
Can you talk?
Disculpen la
Good
interrupción.
morning. Sorry, I'm interrupting,
Cabina de traducción.
but we have been kicked from the interpretation booth.
¿No va a haber traducción entonces?
So there's not going to be any kind of interpretation. No, just if you can resign us. There's we have some technical problems. The interpretation will continue once we fix them.
Creo que
Activar y si no, bueno, seguimos
Sí.
adelante desde acá, pero
Eso.
podemos ver un último intento, a ver si Douglas, aquí la señal está en general, no es muy buena. Ahora, ajá, eso, intenta sin el video, Douglas. Sí, tienes el micrófono apagado.
Your microphone is off, Douglas. I'm sorry, we're having some technical problems. The interpretation is gonna continue once these are fixed.
Sí.
Ahora sí.
Seguimos, ¿sí? Ajá,
Sí.
adelante.
Voy por otra vía.
Okay,
Bueno, respecto a lo que estamos hablando, la explotación petrolera en Venezuela tiene más de 100 años y se concentró inicialmente.
The exploitation of oil in Venezuela. Venezuela has been for a lot of years. It's been happening for a lot of years. This is really old because the pollution generated in the system has destroyed
En el lago.
there's some technical problem. Oh, this has brought some consequences that the lake, which is one of the
It
highest,
has brought as a consequence that the lake is contaminated because of the exploitation, the overexploitation of the lake. We're talking about more than 12,000 kilometers.
Son varios millones de personas.
And this has damaged all the population of the endemic species there.
En el resto del país. Y
And
es
apart from the
donde hay una
apart from the oil exploitation
de hidrocarburos, ¿no? Y se
from
genera una cantidad de gas, ¿no? Que la mejor forma que ha tenido el gobierno es quemarlo por lo que
there's
llamamos,
a bigger production of gas,
no solamente ecológico, sino en la salud de los pobladores locales. Está
this has an impact on the health of the population, and there's evidence that indicates that all the breathing problems, all the breathing issues of the population are due to this gas exploitation. There are some cases where the water, the drinking water has been affected by this mining, exploitation. Other case of interest is the accumulation of waste, of residues, that brings as a consequence
áreas muy grandes de la costa oriental venezolana.
some sort of steam that affects the health of the population.
La siguiente, bueno, como hemos hablado, la minería de oro.
As we've been talking, the gold mining with this illegal exploitation of the mines has been protected by the government. The exploitation has caused a massive deforestation of primary woods and forests of the country. The gold is brought from a destination that we don't really know and has caused a bad outcome for the country. There's also a lot of evidence about the big problem with the contamination by mercury. Because there's some bioaccumulation of mercury in the ecosystems. All the population from native the population of native towns have mercury accumulation in their bodies.
Por favor, Emiliano. Esa minería está amparada en
This mining has been
y eso ha permitido que
as a refugee in local towns, and this exploitation has brought up some problems as the expansion of malaria, and this was brought up by all the deforestation and all the gold mining. And this has been widely extended in the different parks and forests of the country. There's some other, there's some suggestions that say that a big part of the east of the country will have permanent issues with malaria. Because this deforestation will continue to grow, and this is also shown here there's consequences for the lakes, for example, because there's some lakes that have been lost completely, and some of the grounds of the country has been lost also because of the exploitation of the resources. It suggests that the climate justice will have an effect in a long term in the case that the goals are achieved. There are some cases, documented cases, where the population, where the native population survives by some slavery systems that are very known by the government, but however, it's very difficult to have access to primary information because the military control of the country is limits all the access and limits the way that in which we can have access to these experiences. It is shown, it is proved that a big part of the native population is living under slavery. It's living under slavery. Apart from that, there's also some particular case here with this gold mining in the south of Venezuela has been associated by with an increment of with the use of women. So women are victims of abuse, of sexual abuse, exploitation, and also prostitution. Because there is no real control and surveillance for them. There's in the case of the waste that the mining cause, it's been proved that there's not a real process here. All this waste is not being appropriately disposed as the law says. And all this waste, all this waste creates a generalized contamination for the country, mainly in the rural zone, where the controls are less efficient. And now I will give the word to Emiliano to continue with the information.
Gracias, gracias. Sí, decía, para cerrar,
So to close, because we probably don't have enough time anymore, I would like to point out that in this complex context, there are still fights all over the country. Fights for life reproduction. also for the deforestation, and also, and in all the territory, there are all kind of organizations and communities that are defending rivers, mountains, land. You can see some examples here. There's people from the Lara state, like my classmate was talking about. There's some places that are fighting against mining, and there's several more. We will have to talk about so many that are fighting in this very complex context. So this is really complicating matters. Like in the defense of the water, there's several indigenous communities that in some areas where mining exists, they're opposing the installation. But this is happening also in the city because we have to, we're fighting, they're fighting for the access to water. And we have to fight for that defense of life. I think that's the first line of defense.
De presión y respeto absoluto a los derechos.
This is about the defense and respect to the human rights and animal rights. Because we don't have any kind of channels to formally denounce this kind of things that are happening. The possibility for us is, well, we don't really have any kind of political leaders that have any some kind of proposal for the protection of the environment. And right now we are rebuilding our society, and all the cooperation. It's really welcome and really needed. And so you can, and I hope you're able to know more about the fights we have in Venezuela. We thank you a lot for your time and send you a big hug.
Thank you so much, Emiliano and Douglas. That was really, really beautiful. Yeah, you touched on kind of lots of incredible things, but I think one thing that really stood out to me is the undercurrent or overcurrent of militarism as an kind of enforcing arm of state violence in this whole process. So yeah, thanks so much for sharing. Amazing. So we have about just over 15 minutes left to wrap up. I'm going to hand over to our listeners, Tatiana and Canahus. I'm not sure, how much of it, Canahus, you've managed to catch. So you're very welcome to jump in with any thoughts that you have, or equally when we come back. You can kind of contribute in the dedicated listeners session as well, whatever you're most comfortable and happy with. But I'll hand over to Tatiana.
Thank you so much, and hello everyone. I'm connecting from Colombia, and well, actually the land of the Pijao and Vera people here, and it's really nice to be listening to people that are in these regions and also in other places. It's been really amazing to connect and hear from all of your experiences and testimonies today, and I'm really glad that this space has been created. I mean, just to echo what other listeners really have said about how powerful these stories are. And, this year COP, the COP26 has been really, not inclusive at all. And it's in these spaces that we are able to really hear from well, people that are fighting and resisting in the front line. So I'm really happy that that this space has been created. Also because a lot of the times I think health justice is not included in the conversations about climate collapse, and in a way our kind of like struggles get kind of like divided, and we never talk about the impact of on our health. So I'm really happy that we are kind of like weaving like all of those different ways in which the systems in which we live affect us. But something that really struck me from the testimonies that we just heard is the many ways in which people have been resisting through coming together. Actually, in this last round of testimonies, we had collectives coming to give their testimonies. And that was really nice to see, because it is collectively that we are also confronting militarism and the dictatorship of mining and extractivist companies. So that was really nice to see and to feel. But also we heard from, you know, Damian in Argentina, that you're kind of, and also in Venezuela, from Douglas and Emiliano, that you're kind of like, you know, both researching and doing activism in communities, so that our strategies and the ways in which we transform the world, you know, come from different perspectives. And that's, yeah, I found that really powerful and inspiring. And I mean, just as I speak here today, I am also connecting from a place that has been, or communities that have been fighting a big, massive, giant corporation called AngloGold Ashanti that wanted to build one of the biggest gold mines in Latin America, La Colosa. And the communities here in this like really small town near where I am calling from managed to get them off their territories. And this was through a popular consultation, just very similar to what our friends in Ecuador shared with us today in the video that they showed us. So just, I'm feeling at the moment, I'm feeling really touched and really inspired, but by all of the work that that the people that we have in this hearing have has shared with us. I think I'll leave it there. We have a longer kind of like session next, where we're going to be kind of like talking about all of the things that we've heard so far in a bit more detail. So I just want to give space to my to our other listener to just come in if you want.
I'm assuming that's me. Quiet tip, everybody. I'm not sure if I'm too early for the session I'm supposed to be at or what, but I got to listen to the gentleman from Venezuela give his testimonial, and just thank you for including me. I'm calling in from the front line. I'm fighting against the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion project here in Canada. There's a picture of our map of our nation, which is around 180,000 square kilometers of unceded territory. We never signed no land agreement, no treaty with Great Britain, Canada, nor British Columbia. And so we're still here fighting for our land. And since this is about health, I wanted to just say right now that it's going to take the people taking a fierce land defense, defending and protecting land in order for us to protect it. Indigenous peoples, we are the ecological biodiversity of the world, and we're the ones that are really going to save the planet. Our life depends on it, our language depends on it, our culture depends on it. Everything of who we are depends on our land. So without land, we are dead. And just to show you, I lit some of our sage that was brought down from down in the valley while we were listening, and I just wanted to show you some of our sacred items that we use in our land defense. And people don't really talk about the spiritual work that goes into our land defense too, but it's part of who we are as Indigenous people. And this is the eagle feather fan, and I use this when I go to the front and I talk to people at the blockade. I use this when I talk to people that come here to try to threaten us. This was actually made from a prisoner, indigenous political prisoner from the US. And it was physically ran step by step from Calipatria State Prison in California all the way to Panama. This is how far this went, step by step by step, were prayers for us indigenous people on this continent. And this is one of our drums. You can see how big it is. Our woman warrior song. Hey, 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 yeah, oh, yeah, oh, hey, hey, yeah, yeah, oh, hey, hey, yeah, I usually don't play it like that, but just to show you some of our shoes made out of buckskin, deer buckskin, our moccasins, some of our medicines made from the land we wear every day. And that's why we are so fierce, and that's why we stand so strong, is because that's what they're trying to destroy. That's what the oil companies, and that's what the logging companies and the water extraction companies, and they're trying to destroy this healthy connection that we have with our the spiritual and the land, because it's both connected. And so I just wanted to leave it at that. I'm assuming I'm going to be listening to more testimonials, and just thank everybody for sharing, and thank you for really hosting this. It's much needed in the world, these tribunals. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to both of you, to Kanahus and to Tatiana for taking the space to really reflect and just offer your thoughts. And yeah, it was really, really beautiful. I suppose, yeah, if we wrap up, just so that we have some breathing space to stretch our legs, stretch our weary minds, and kind of bring ourselves into a space where we're able to come back and listen. Thanks so much to everybody that has come, and to everybody that's shared, both the listeners and the witnesses that we have, but also to you guys in terms of just the fact that you shared yourselves and shared your time as well to really be here with us all together. Really want to emphasize that there's lots more stuff in the online gallery, which you can find in the chat. And if you check that out during the break, that'd be great. We're going to meet back here at 16:15 even, at 4:15 UTC. So that's in roughly another 45-50 minutes on the same link to hear from the listeners. And yeah, we'll have a quick chat with you, Kanahus, as well, but it'd be great if we can get you to if you like, have a look at some of the other testimonies as well. And I'm going to leave you with those wonderful sounds of Kanahus. Thank you very much. And one final super important shout out to the incredible interpreters, where we've been flipping back and forth between multiple languages, and it has been absolutely incredible. And yeah, just absolute legends. Thank you very much.
Gracias, gracias a todas y todos.
Gracias, querida.
Thank you to everyone and a hug to everyone.